Welcome to the Scalability Code, the podcast that helps you get out of the shit show and start growing your business. A few times each month, you'll hear stories and commentary from visionary entrepreneurs, EOS implementers, and fractional COOs about how they've taken businesses to level 10. And now, for your host, Matt Haney.
All right, thanks for joining us again for another episode of the Scalability Code. I am joined today by my new friend from West Hempstead, is Adam Goldschmiedt. Adam, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you jumping in today and having a conversation.
It's going to be awesome. Excited. I've been waiting all day for this.
All day, the entire day, all of it.
Yeah.
Well, what we do is we start off with a little bit of background because it's fun to hear people's story. Whenever we talk about background, it's very rare. I'm sure you've given an introduction about yourself 100 times, but this is actually one of those times where you should take more than 90 seconds because the information that got you to here, we actually have the time and the medium to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So my goal is to go back as far as you want to go with your entrepreneurial journey and to get us to today and fill in some of the gaps in the middle so that we understand how you got to this place.
Cool. I'm going to roll back really, really far because I'm going to think back, and there's relevance to this a little bit later because I was, I did a lot of child labor when I was a kid from the age of 9 to 13. So from 1989 till about 1993, I was a member / soloist of a group called the Miami Boys Choir. For those of you who are listening to this who have never heard of Miami Boys Choir, they are probably, there's been plenty of people since me there. Once the voice changes, they don't want you in there anymore. But it's really one of the longest running, most famous Jewish music acts in the world. So anybody who follows Jewish music, almost 100% knows who the Miami Boys Choir is. It was a very, very cool experience in my life. I was performing in front of thousands of people before I reached puberty. So that was a lot of fun for me. And I really that was my first experience really working because it was hard. I had a good voice. I could dance a little bit. I was always theatrical. I wasn't really scared in public, but there's this element of perfection. When you have 40 people who have to sing a song together with various levels of harmony. So we practiced very, very rigorously. It was almost a job for my parents too, because they had to get me into practices in Brooklyn every Sunday from Long Island, which was not fun. But we worked our tails off, and it was to a degree work and honing a craft and getting really, really good. Using perfection as the goal, realizing that if you're never going to get there, but at least to see that excellence. And I learned that at a very, very young age. I took what I did very, very seriously. Even at my bar mitzvah, when I did my reading, I know that there were 3 parts where I was flat on a note and everybody else did a great job. And I'm like, okay, but I know that I didn't hit that note and that note and that note.
Give yourself some grace.
Yeah, that's just the story of my life. I don't like to do that very much, but I'm getting better at it now that I'm almost 46 years old. So that was, my first experience really working because we really, really worked. Those practices were 3-4 hours and, drilling things in and practicing them over and over and over again until you get it stage ready, album ready, etc. Going to the recording studio and recording a song maybe 15 times before it's right. It was really, really cool experience. It helped me tap into a little bit of competition, right? There was competition for solos that was there, which was healthy, I think. And really just that striving for excellence. It really, really helped me.
Yeah.
When I got to high school, I stared working in the neighborhood pizza store. So I was just, I was there a couple of days a week after school and on Sundays, and I was just always hustling. I always liked to have my own money. I didn't like to ask my parents to buy me stuff because a lot of times they would give me problems with it. So I'm like, okay, if I have my own money, I can just do whatever I want.
I'll just earn my own. If I earn my own, you can't tell me no.
Yeah, exactly. I want to buy a pair of $150 Jordans. That's on me. I want to buy a guitar and decide to play guitar. That's for me to do. So I always liked that independence that I had from working, and I always enjoyed working. When I worked in the pizza store, I had a boss named Richie, who to this day I'm friends with. Common theme. I'm friends with all my bosses to this day. I value them greatly. And Richie was if you ever met him, he was a tough cookie. He was a tough boss. But if you performed and you did what you were supposed to do, he loved you. So he treated me like I was the manager of the store. I was a 16, 17-year-old kid after a couple of years, when I was working there. He gave me a ton of responsibility and he empowered me. And he would call me out when I wasn't doing well, and he appreciated hard work. And the thing that I think he appreciated the most was systems, right? I've learned over the course of my life that I'm a little bit OCD. I'm very, very orderly with certain things in general, but when I go food shopping.
Give me an example. If your wife were to walk in, what would she say?
She would say,
Go.
Adam loves folding laundry. Adam loves going grocery shopping. Maybe more than grocery shopping is making the list in the perfect order so that you can execute your trip efficiently in the order of the aisles. I love washing dishes. Like nothing like a perfectly clean plate or glass to me. Like these are just things that I find therapeutic. Most people find weird, but it makes me a
This
better
is
husband.
fantastic.
Yeah. So one of the main jobs when I was starting in the pizza store was you had to load the soda case. And all these soda was in the basement, and you would load it up and put the fridge, rotating stock and all these things. And I would create my list like it was a perfect list. Like I had a different process. Everybody else would go up and down. Okay, we need Coke. I'll go down and get Coke, bring it up. And I'm like, this is silly. Why do I need to go up and down the steps 15 times? Let's make a list of everything I have, everything I need, load it up on the box. And that became the way that we did things. And that was like, I learned it years later. That was my first process that I ever built.
That's such a fantastic story.
Yeah.
Why do we need to bring 12 if we only need 4?
Right.
Count the holes, fill the holes, bring what you need to fill the holes.
That's it. That's it. You know,
Love it.
Richie was a very system-oriented guy. He had like a little poem that he had if we had like a catering job and you had to pack up the truck with like all the paper goods and everything. I don't remember it exactly, but it was hot cups, cold cups, sugar sweet and low, forks, knives, spoons, doilies. Like he had this whole poem that you had to memorize of all the things that needed to get. So whenever I would go downstairs to load up for a job, I knew exactly what I needed to do as long as I memorized the song. So
Adam, I have to tell you, the fact that you can remember the rhythm to the song, yes, you're very musically inclined, but all the songs in your head, you remember one from 40-something years ago. 30-something years ago, anyway.
30 years ago, but yeah, still, it definitely rings true. My
That's
memory,
so rad.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I have a deep appreciation for all my life experiences. So that's, that was just a really, really cool moment. I was there for a while. I worked there through college. I was running the store, when I was in college. And once I graduated, it was time to quote unquote get a real job and enter the professional world. So I stopped working there. I still go into that pizza store to this day, and I still get VIP treatment. So that's awesome. And then let's see. So while I was in college, and another little wrinkle of something that happened along the way. I was studying to be a journalist. That was actually my real passion. I wanted to be a sports writer. In my junior year of college, my father passed away. So I was 20 years old.
Oh, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I've dealt with it okay since. It's been a long time, 25 years, 26 years almost. And, when I started looking, when I was in my senior year and I was starting to look at jobs in journalism and I wanted to be a sports writer, anything that was somewhat appealing that I wanted to do would have forced me to relocate. It would have forced me to move to Texas. Actually, I had an offer to go to Dallas-Fort Worth Star-Telegram. There was something in Indianapolis. They weren't paying great. It wasn't exciting work, but that's the way the industry is. You have to really, really cut your teeth before you get like that, New York team beat reporter type of gig. But I just felt like my heart wasn't in it anymore, and I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to just pick up and move at that point in time. It just didn't make sense for me. So what did I do instead? I went into sales.
Absolutely.
Of course. I had a friend whose brother-in-law ran an agency that sold advertising in like professional college sports yearbooks. So I did that for a couple of years. I was actually really good. I remember about 3 months into my first job there was 9/11. And I have such a clear memory. I was thinking about it last week. Last week was 9/11. I don't know.
Yeah, it was last week.
But I remember I was in Elmont, which is on Long Island. We could see the smoke, right? From Elmont, from Long Island, 25, 30 miles away. So that was like really, really one of those moments that stuck out to me. And I had a lot of fun working there in the beginning. And they had an interesting training philosophy in this company. And it was called Get 'em Good or Get 'em Gone, where they would bring in anybody.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's like a highly leveraged commission-based structure, and we'll bring anybody in. And if they're not good, and we try to train them, and we invest in time, and we realize they're not going to be good, what better thing to do than to make them absolutely miserable so that they quit, right? We don't want to fire them. Let's let them quit. And it was the way that things were done. It was, again, a highly competitive environment. I've always played competitive sports, so I did enjoy that part. It was a very young, youthful organization, so it was almost like a frat house vibe where we had like, a bunch of 21 to 25-year-olds like hitting the phones like a boiler room. And I was doing well, and I enjoyed it. But after a couple of years, it started to drain on me, and I started to realize like this is not what I wanted to go into business for. This is not the type of, I didn't even know what a business culture should be at that point in time, but this wasn't for me. And I was coming home. I was recently married. I was coming home and crying. I was crying. I was saying to my wife, like, I don't know what the heck is going on here. Why am I doing this with myself? It was really, really hard period of time back in 2004. I was 25 years old. Like I just felt like this was not where I wanted to be. And we were at a dinner party, and I was talking to a couple friends of ours, Ari and Brooke, and Ari mentioned to me that his development agency was a programmer. They were looking to hire a salesperson. Let me introduce you to the bosses and see if it clicks. So he introduced me to the owners of this company called Blue Switch, and they decided to bring me in as employee number 9. This was in August of 2004 to be their first ever salesperson.
Wow.
Cool stuff, right? Great culture. It was a small little office then. We grew obviously and moved into bigger, cooler offices, but just like a very relaxed vibe. Like we had a dartboard, we had like a Nintendo, and people would like take breaks. And this is like something that I had never experienced before. Like
that was pretty cool back then, by the way.
yeah, totally. Like, and people
that
were
was
having
a thing.
fun. And it didn't even matter too much to me because every time I saw that going on, I'm like, I shouldn't be in the office anyway. I should be out there on sales calls. And I spent about 9 months trying to land my first sale. I didn't close anything. I was not good at it. My approach was terrible. I thought that I could go door to door in Manhattan selling websites the same way that I would sell advertising. And there was no credibility, and I didn't know what the heck I was talking about.
No.
I didn't know what people wanted yet. So we had a very, very difficult conversation. We're going back now probably to like May of 2005 at this point. My wife was pregnant with my first son at the time. And we had a difficult conversation in that, Adam, we love you. It's like a classic right person, wrong seat situation. Now, you're not selling and your job is to sell, and we can't keep paying you a draw and a commission if nothing's coming in. So we had this idea, right? It was either leave the company. I had interviewed at a couple of places. Nothing was really for me. And we had this idea that let's turn Adam into a project manager. Let's see if maybe by him working with some clients, and we had taken on some bigger name clients that we were starting to do some big projects for, and they needed some support. There were no project managers in the company. I was the first ever project manager at Blue Switch. And they said, okay, we need somebody in this role. Maybe this will work for you. Maybe you can do this for a little bit, learn about the industry, learn about what we do, learn about what the client needs, and then go back out into the world and start to sell. I said, okay, got nothing else going on. I have a kid on the way. I better keep my job here. So I'm going to become a project manager. And what I didn't realize is that if you think back to some of the things I was telling you about my processes and my systems and my little OCD organizational nature, everything just clicked. I joke and say I became the greatest project manager of all time. Maybe a little bit facetious. I thought I was pretty good, but honestly, it was something that resonated with me. And all of a sudden, I was a journalist, and then I was a salesperson. And now I realize my job is to help clients. To figure out what they need, to figure out how much they want to pay, to figure out how we're going to manage that budget and manage their expectations, meet those expectations, liaise between the client and the team doing the work, create the plans, create the execution models, and everything just started to come together. And I really, really took a liking to it. The other thing happened too, I did start to sell more as a result.
Of course.
But then I worked myself out of a job in the sales side because we really needed full-time project management. So I think in 2007, we decided no more sales for Adam. If you bring something in, great, but the focus can't be on sales. We need to build out our project management team.
Okay, hold on. I want to jump in. So you mentioned something you tried to gloss over. I'm not going to let you. Sports writer, obviously very into sports, New York guy. Mets or Yankees?
Yankees. My entire family are Met fans, though.
Just going to hold this up here.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
okay.
It's
okay.
And then you know what? I can't make this up. This is on my desk, right next to it.
Yeah, listen, sick people do.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a healthy relationship, and for once, it's going to be an incredible end of the season because we won last night. I don't know if you guys did. One game behind you in the wild card, coming into. You guys won too, so we're 2 games back.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. We're coming.
It pains me to realize that my kids have grown up in a world where the Red Sox have won more World Series than the Yankees. Like, they don't know
because you didn't get to see it.
I used to wear my Boston Sox shirt. I used to have a hat in 1918 that I would walk around with. I had to burn it after 2004. I was at the bloody Sox game. That was.
Were you?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Yankee fan. I had season tickets from 2000 to 2002. Out of college, and my first couple of years working, me and my buddy would go to.
02 is when Aaron Boone hit the. Yeah, it was
2003.
03. That was 03. Damn it, you're right. So okay.
2002 we didn't. 2001 they lost to the Diamondbacks. That was the 9/11 year. 2002 they lost to the Angels. I think in the first round, and the Angels won the World Series that year. And then we beat Boston in 2003, lost to Miami in the Florida, whatever they were called then. And then 2004 is when everything changed.
Yes. Oh, what a great memory. I haven't been able to get in touch with. I just haven't had a chance to share my nerdiness, but I love that you love the Yankees, and I love the rivalry. And truth be told, I did get a little teary eyed when Rivera, that famous last at bat when he and was it Judge and who else was out there on the mound with him when his last out.
Yeah, it was
Jeter and
Posada, I think, was still on the team. Pettit. Andy Pettit
was
one
other guy.
For
Pettit, that's who it was. And when Rivera grabs him and weeps, it was like one of the sweetest sports memories. I still get the chills.
Go out to my closet and show you the only Yankee jersey that I own, because I don't really like to wear the jersey. I just would rather wear a t-shirt. But my jersey is my Mariano jersey. That guy was the man.
I'm telling you, I want to meet him. I want to know everything about him, because he is one of the most classy, incredibly talented killers on the baseball diamond you'll ever meet. Like, I hated him, but now I have this found obsession with him.
A couple weeks ago, he tore his Achilles during Old Timers Day.
No.
Yeah.
On the field?
On the field. In the middle of the game. He was playing outfield. And he was sprinting for a ball, and he fell, and they announced the next day, oh, by the way, he tore his Achilles. He's like, I'll be fine. It's fine. I don't play.
That's a terrible one to recover from, bro. That's a terrible one.
But at least it's a few years after he's made the Hall of Fame, so he doesn't have to rush back. And hopefully he doesn't have to push himself too much. But
well, I'm glad we got that out of the way. Let's get back to operations, and let's fast forward to your implementer world.
So the implementer story actually starts at the end of my last stop. So fast forward to 2017, I took over an agency called Pixify. I was the COO of Blue Switch at the time. We were about 50 people. Pixify was about 2 years into an acquisition. They had been acquired by a larger parent company, and it was a complete failure. Things were falling apart at the seams, and I got a call, hey, you want to try to save this thing? And I said, okay, I'm a glutton for punishment. So I came and spent about 2 years trying to fix it. We had to do layoffs, reductions of force. We had partners kicking us out until the summer of 2019, where I felt like I was probably ready to move on, that I've given it my all. And we were getting ready for our annual leadership offsite, and corporate sent everybody who run the business units a copy of Get a Grip. And they basically announced that 6 months ago, our executive team started running on EOS, and now you all have to bring this into your practices. Reason why I mentioned Miami Boys Choir earlier, other than the fact that it was some light child labor, is I made a very good friend at that time when I was 10 years old, a guy named Svi Schwartz. And Svi and I, we stayed close for a few years, and then we disappeared from each other's lives for a few years, and then we moved into the same neighborhood. So from the time, for the last 16 years or so, we've been super close again.
You were in choir with Svi?
That is how we know each other.
That's so badass.
Yeah.
That was 30-something years ago.
Yep, and we come back together.
That's a really cool connection.
So 2 weeks after I got the book, he's in my house. Our wives are friends, our kids are friends. He's like, why do you have this book? And I said, our company is, doing this. We have to put this into place in our business. He's like, I just became an EOS implementer. I'm doing this. I put it into place in my other business. And I said, cool, let me see if I can hire you. So I had budget for it in my P&L. I asked, the corporate, I'm like, can I get approval? I want to bring in my own implementer. I read this book. I think I need help. And they're like, no, even though you have budget, we want to keep it consistent. It's a little bit of a bigger company, probably outside of the EOS target market, more of an enterprise. Right. So they wanted to do it their own way. They wanted it to be consistent between all the practices. And if I had budget and somebody else didn't, they didn't want to have one person with an implementer one. And it made some sense, I guess, in the moment. But I'm really good at taking advantage of people. So I used Svi a lot. I used him as a free resource. I would call him with questions. I was a real student of the game. I love to read. It's really one of my favorite hobbies. If I was doing this call in my office, I had to move upstairs because there's a dog and a lot of kids running around downstairs right now. But if I was doing this call in my office, I would show you, I have a wall of books. Those are my trophies, and I'm constantly reading. And I just went all in. I read all the EOS books. I really, really became a student of the game. I tapped into Svi, and within a year, we turned the business around. We took a business that was failing, where nobody wanted to touch us with a 10-foot pole. And all of a sudden, we were able to remove all of our distractions, gain focus, and understand exactly what types of products and solutions we should develop, leveraging our partnerships with the parent company. And then, we turned it around. We did $1 million in revenue with $500,000 in profit year one of running on EOS.
So good.
Doubled it the year after. We had gotten really lean also, where we were only like 3 or 4 people by this point in time. So I brought in an amazing integrator. The first role on the accountability chart for her was not LMA. It was keep Adam away from clients. I needed to focus on being the visionary and the strategy. and everything just fell into place. We launched our product in March 2020, the same time that, somebody else decided to launch COVID-19. So all of our shows, I was going to do like a road show and, give the demos in public, and they all got canceled. Everything got converted to Zoom. But the good thing was, at least for us, opportunistically, was that because of all the travel restrictions, we had a B2B focused solution. So all of these B2B sales reps that were traveling the country doing in-person sales meetings that couldn't do it anymore, everybody needed a quick to market B2B e-commerce solution. So again, this is not my doing. This is, I believe in a higher power. So, God put us in the right place at the right time, and the business really, really took off. We had doubled it a couple times. And then at some point in the middle of 2022, to no fault of anybody's, it was just, a prioritization issue, but we had a certain element of our strategy that wasn't working out. And I started to realize like we needed to make some plans, make some changes to the plan for the rest of the year, because what we thought was going to happen wasn't, and we can't keep depending on that. So I called up, naturally, my first call in those situations was called see if he can help. He's like, yeah, I'll come to your house tonight. We'll have a couple drinks. We'll talk it out. We'll figure it out. And we're sitting and we're talking in the backyard, and I'm getting really frustrated, really frustrated. And I say to him, I feel like I'm not even doing my job anymore. I was the visionary. I feel like I'm not doing my job anymore. I feel like I'm doing your job. I feel like I'm an implementer at this point with what I'm doing. And he says, I've been waiting for you to say something like this because I actually think you should be an implementer. And then all of a sudden, like, light bulb, and at the same time, shut that light down. No, I'm not an entrepreneur. I run businesses for people. I'm not going to start my own business. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't see myself as a coach. But then as I started to peel back the onion, I start to realize, like, what are some of the unique values that I brought to a business? Like when I was at Net at Work and I was running Pixify, in addition to launching ERP Commerce at the beginning of COVID, I also launched an initiative called the What Makes Me Happy program. And it was a 15-minute call. We had about 400 people in the company, where anybody in the company, if you said, I can't take a call, it's what makes me happy, 15 minutes, 3:00 every single day. We would get usually about 100 and 150 people would join in, and somebody from the company would just share something about their lives. Like I did a demo of a board game with my family. Some people read poetry. Some people showed their family, heirlooms and history. And we just started to learn about each other. And it created this like new cultural revolution in the business. I got a lot of recognition for it, which made me uncomfortable because I really just did it because I needed something to pass the time and I miss seeing people in the office. But it really made a huge impact. And I started to realize through that and through becoming a visionary and kind of being the face and the voice for ERP Commerce, I started doing a lot of public speaking and speaking at conferences. My friends would joke in the business. I had, some of my colleagues would call me Gary V. Like that was their joke, that I'm Gary V.
Those are good friends that can call you Gary V just to wind you up.
You're like Mr. Motivational Speaker. And then what was cool is we were actually at a Sage convention in November 2021, and Gary V was the keynote speaker, and I got to actually meet him and spend some time with him, which was really, really cool as well. So,
that's awesome.
All these things started like pointing me and like, maybe this is for me, maybe I have some type of inspirational quality that I maybe never tapped into or something before.
You are listening to the Scalability Code. I'm your host, Matt Haney, founder of Sinclair Ventures, and we help visionary entrepreneurs like you get out of the shit show and focus on growing your business. We offer fractional COO and leadership coaching services that free up that brain of yours to focus on what's next. Learn more about us at sinclairventures.com. Now back to it. So what year are you in? So where are we? We're September of 25 now. Where are you in how many?
So on October 1st of 2022, I told Net at Work, the parent company, that January 1st, I'm out. I'm giving you 3 months notice to wind things down. I'll help you find a replacement. I'll do whatever I need to do, but I'm going to be chasing this passion of mine. I'm starting my own little entrepreneurial journey. I'm going to be an EOS Implementer. They completely understand it. When they heard, they're like, that makes a lot of sense. They realized, maybe it was a little dicey in the beginning and it was a little uncomfortable when we first had the conversations, but at the same, because I don't think they saw it coming from a mile away. I've always been the most loyal employee. Like that was the second real company that I worked for. I was at one company for 13 years and this one for almost 7. And people say, wow, that was a long time. And I'm like, really? I was only there like 7 years. That wasn't such a long time. But we got over it and they were extremely, extremely supportive. We helped wind things down towards the end of the year the right way. And then on January 1st, 2023, I became all in EOS Implementer. I had about a month and a half till end of February till boot camp. So what better way to learn and study it than apprentice around one of the best in the game? So I rode shotgun with C for about a month and a half.
How many sessions did you get to see? Do you remember?
Probably about 20. Probably sat through about 20 session days, a bunch of 90s, a bunch of annuals, quarterlies, and I got to see a lot.
That is so badass.
Yeah, there was one client I remember that asked me to disappear during the team health stuff of the annual. And looking back, I completely understand why. But it was really a tremendous learning experience. It got to the point where they were getting me involved even a little bit in the sessions because I was starting to like contribute. And he's like, speak up, like, you know this, you can help here. So it was really, really cool. Just like a cool experience.
What a cool experience. Shout out to Svi for bringing someone in and the trust he has in you to bring a stranger into a session room. That is next level, Adam. I know you know this now. And obviously at the time you probably did or didn't, but think of all the sessions you've had since then, and bringing a stranger into them is a really, really hard thing to do.
I've done it twice. I'm trying to pay it forward a little bit. I think it was a great learning experience for me. I don't mind it if the client doesn't mind it, but at the same time, you know, now I understand why they threw me out of that team health, because if I'm sitting in the room and you have this observer stranger there, people aren't going to say what they really need to say. No. So I get it. But, you know, for quarterly or something like that, like it's very helpful for the person, the implementer in training. But either way, we also started, Svi and I started to get some larger clients that had like a few layers of management underneath the leadership team that needed some extra training. So we developed a program called Infuse, which was a 6-month EOS training curriculum for middle managers. That started to take off. We did a bunch. I started working with a bunch of his clients.
So hold on a second. So you started your journey, and as you were building your book, you worked with Svi to work on some of his clients, lower level folks below the leadership team.
Yeah, we
love that
business model. We had our own like manuals. We taught it a little bit differently because it's not the leadership team, and bring them along in a little bit of a different order. But it was really, really impactful and really, really cool.
That's very cool.
And at the same time, I went to boot camp in February and I was building up my practice, and, you know, again, it just, everything like worked, you know, I had a great mentor. I started making some great friends in the community. You know, when I was at boot camp, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? First, I was, what the heck is going on here? Literally like calling my wife, like, what did I get into? Right. Like
the cult.
Yeah. I was just like, no, forget about the cult part of it. Like I forgot everything that I knew from the 3 years of implementing it into my business. All of a sudden I show up at boot camp and like, my mind went blank, and they break you. They call it boot camp for a reason, in a good way, because it really, really puts you, you know, your feet to the fire. And if you really, really want to do this, this is going to be one of the easier things you end up doing, because it's not an easy job that we do. People think it's easy sometimes because they see what I feel like in a session and things like that. But the biz dev is hard. Maintaining your energy level is hard. You know, keeping EOS out of the house to a degree and not coaching your kids and your family all the time is hard. There's a lot of little interesting things that I've learned about myself along the way, but that's really, really been the primary driver, and that's it. You know, I'm about 2.5 years since boot camp now. Between my infused sessions and my leadership sessions, I'm approaching 200 right now, which is really, really some accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. Definitely a lot of peaks and valleys, ups and downs, revenue wise, emotions wise, but I love what I do. When I'm in that session room with a client, I'm in an elevated place. I'm not in this planet when I'm there. It's not, I can't really explain it other than me completely understanding that this is what I'm on this earth to do. Yeah. The work is what goes on in between the sessions and earning those sessions and keeping those sessions.
That's so crazy. I was in one of my clients is in the middle of negotiating 2 acquisition opportunities, one by Accenture and one by another company. And I'm meeting with a couple of guys from London. And we're going around the table and we introduce each other. We do a full day session and then we go to dinner. And the visionary of this company that's looking to acquire us says, I'd like to ask each of you a really hard question, or I'd like to get a little deeper. And one of them was like, Matt, you know, like I don't remember what the thing was, the actual prompt, but I looked at him and I said, I've never felt more comfortable in my own skin than I feel right now doing what I'm doing. Yeah. And I said, I have felt the other side of that. And I've never had more confidence in my abilities and my path and my journey than right now. And that sounds very similar to where you are in your journey, which is when you feel it, it's so empowering. But then again, you and I both want to turn around and go, how do we help the people that we're dealing with get to that place? Yeah. And that's the sauce, right? Is to help someone else unlock that.
Yeah. To find, to coin the Dan Sullivan terms, to find your unique ability, right? And this life is, people ask me like, how do you do what you do? How do you stand in front of a leadership team and orchestrate an entire day, make sure that, like, aren't you exhausted? Isn't that long, like 8-hour meeting, 9, 10-hour meetings? Like, how do you do that every time? I'm like, I love it. I'm not working. Like, I turn around, I'm like, crap, it's 5 o'clock already. Shit. Like,
Yeah. I got to get out of here. No.
yeah. I mean,
No, that's awesome.
Out of my sessions, it's like, where did the day go? Like, I can't believe, like, that was seamless. It seems like we just got into the room.
You know, I've had the pleasure of sitting through sounds negative, but it is a pleasure. I don't know, maybe 100, maybe 150 sessions, maybe 200, I don't know, with probably 15 different implementers. And it is so fun to be on this side of the table and watching you guys at the board do the deal while we as a fractional integrator get to sit there and partake and participate. And I don't have to be EOS on because you're EOS on. You're the one that's delivering and doing the do. I'm being a part of the leadership team. But I can totally see what you're saying around how you get that feeling, that performer feeling that you had as a kid and that you ultimately had in sales. And it's...
Not to cut you off. I mean, even though I did cut you off,
please.
I had a really funny incident last week. I was in a session.
Let's hear it.
We did the session in like a WeWork type of, like co-working facility. It was their conference center. So we were in this big conference room with like a glass door wall. So anybody walking down can look right in and see everything that we're doing, which is fine. Like, not a big deal. The doors are closed. You can't hear us and whatever. And there was like a conference, like a mini conference going on there that day. So I think it was like the Suffolk County Dental Association or something. So a bunch of dentists and like a bunch of dental vendors, and the sponsored tables were right outside the session room. And there was like 3 people sitting, and most of the time nobody was at their tables, and they're just watching. They're watching through the glass. Like, I'm waving to them every once in a while because they see like they're watching the whole session. And during one of the breaks, I walk out and like, what the heck are you doing in there with these people? Like, you're having so much fun. I'm entertained just watching you, and I don't even know what the heck you're talking about. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah, this is what I do. I kind of explained it to them a little bit, and it was just funny. Like, I felt like I was putting on a show for people who weren't even at the table. Like it was weird, but it was fun. And it was
That's fantastic. All right, let's jump in a little bit to this is one of my favorite things that I like to jump into, which is, as an implementer, you guys see so many different businesses.
Yep.
And walks of life and people and sizes and leadership, and we as fractional integrators do see something similar. But think back over the last 200 sessions you've done, and is there any synergies? Do you find yourself dealing with a certain client type, a certain personality, men, women, blah, blah? Is there anything that kind of jumps together as a nucleus?
My clients, I do have a pretty, wide spectrum of the types of clients that I work with, but for some reason I have a lot of contractors. Like that seems to be, where I've happened into business. And I guess that's part of how it works, because that's where referrals come in from and things like that. But what types
of contracting?
Plumbing, mechanical, electrical, hood and fire suppression for restaurants, spray foam insulation, solar.
God, I love it. I love it. I can't love it. That is so good.
Yeah.
And they're all, that's so fabulous. I too have an overlap in contracting as well. And I love the blue collar business. I love watching the tradesman turned leader, turned manager, turned visionary, like that progression. I love building up people, taking them out of the field and teaching them in Texas, we have this joke. At this one contractor, he said, well, I'm more of an outside dog, not an inside dog, because you have dogs that live inside and outside. And he's like, I don't want to become an inside dog. I live on the outside. I was like, I got it. We're not going to try to bring you into the inside. Yeah. But contracting's awesome.
Yeah, I just think that, the reason why I think it's a lot of fun, first off, I really have a tremendous amount of admiration. I think that those are some of the finest entrepreneurs. Right. And if you think about where this world is going, and you think about how maybe 10, 15 years ago, everyone was telling kids go out and become programmers and developers. And now looking at what AI has done to those fields, nobody's really telling people to go into that as much anymore. And now what I'm hearing, and I love it, is that they're telling people, like, go out and become a tradesman. Go out and become a plumber.
Adam, I walk in my backyard today. I'm not bullshitting. I walk in my backyard today. The guy that cleans my pool, I know very well. He's a veteran. He owns his own business. Incredibly hard worker. We're talking about this exact same thing. And he said, I'm leaning into investing my time into trade schools to help kids be, as a mentor and to help these young people understand the value of a trade program and how much opportunity there is. And it hit with me. My dad was a vice president of a local bank for 30 years, but his passion was with underprivileged children and working in trades. And the value they get and the return emotionally that you get from investing in young people in a trade is, I think it's the best, one of the best things out there.
Yeah, and so aside from the fact that I just have a tremendous amount of admiration for the hustle that goes along with running one of those businesses and growing and scaling one of those businesses, is that when you think about the backgrounds of a lot of these people that start these companies, they're not coming from the traditional college education, MBA backgrounds that, maybe we're used to. Like I'm educated. I always focused on my education, whether it helped me today, I don't know. But like, I do believe that, yeah, not everybody has to go to college. Not everybody needs to, do the Ivy League stuff and get their MBAs. Like there's plenty of knowledge, but what EOS brings to the table now is your ability to simplify your business, your ability to slow the business down a little bit to speed it up. And the biggest benefit, I think, for the blue collar companies is creating the common language, because you're bringing in
That's
people.
Exactly right.
Right. If you think about like Michael Gerber, the E-Myth, right, and the progression from craftsman or technician to manager to entrepreneur.
Yep.
Well, these technicians need to learn the entrepreneur language because they need to understand what this visionary, crazy guy is talking about. So by having concepts like rocks and issues and understanding what these things mean, right person, right seat, two very, very different things, and being able to use these terms throughout an organization to create that common language where when I say something, it means the same thing to you as it means to me. And there's no room for misinterpretation whatsoever. I think that that's really what it does, is that, a lot of these businesses, maybe even still some of them run on pencil and paper. That's okay. You can grow a business that way. But you need to have processes. You need to have systems. You need to make sure that there's free-flowing, open, honest, vulnerable communication. And EOS really, really provides that, provides those types of companies with a great framework.
Yep. It's so interesting that you say these things, and I get such a refresher of the commonality of language, because there are a lot there. Removing the room for interpretation is important. And it's one of those things that as I pull back from what I do every day and go back into what you're saying and process the fact that like the commonality is very important. So much so that like when you add a new person to the team after they read what the heck is EOS, and if they're willing to read traction, all this stuff, like you see them, the stranger, the new leadership team member, really jump into the fact that they understand the commonality of the nomenclature and how that breaks down so many barriers and allows for so much clarity. Giving that to an operating team is really special when you see it, kind of hammering out together.
And it also makes the work that we're doing bigger than the job, right? Because when you're in these crafts and trades, the focus tends to be on, let me be the best plumber I can be, the best electrician, let me get the job done. It's all about what the customer wants, land the job, do the job, don't make mistakes, get paid. And now we have a context to start thinking strategically. Now we have a context to bring everybody else, even if it's a guy in the field who maybe not even speaks a word of English, right?
Sure.
To still have that common language, to still be able to bring them into what the company vision is, that they feel that they're a part of it, and to drive them and help motivate and inspire them. I like to use inspire, not motivate. Motivate has an expiration date. Inspiration lasts forever.
Forever.
And if you can inspire people with your vision through these tools, and all of a sudden you have a guy who might just be a plumber, now all of a sudden is a representative for your company, and he's somebody who is helping you get from point A to point B, not just doing the job. And I think that gives that greater sense of purpose to people in an industry or industries where that wasn't typically the case.
Love it. Okay, let me dig in just a little further. You have unique relationships with many different visionaries. I like to talk about time management because I do know in trade specifically, I wouldn't say all, but I'm going to guess most of your clients as the visionary were were picking up the hammer at some point, proverbially. And at that time, they had to work harder to do more and to get better. They had to work harder, harder, and harder. How difficult is it for you, kind of on the coaching side, forget the session room as much, but how hard is it to get them to really slow down and take that clarity break and to take the time to be present in something else other than their 60-hour a week, 70-hour a week, 80-hour a week grind they've done their whole career.
You hit the nail on the head that a lot of this comes down to time management, right? And when we think about the EOS toolbox and a level 10 meeting, time management tool,
Sure.
How much time should we spend talking
100%.
about things so that we have the right amounts of times on the right things? And one of the things that I teach my leadership teams, and I actually posted in my newsletter, I posted like a little bit of a video about this. So sign up for my newsletter if you want to see some cool content.
There you go. Shout out.
But I believe rock setting is a time management technique. Because when you think about it, what's the model, right? Why do we call them rocks? You have to fill in your big rocks and let the sand and the pebbles fill in around the sides. The sand, the pebbles, that's distractions. That's your day-to-day activities, the client calls, things like that you have to do. But then the rocks are the big strategic priorities that you're doing to work on the business, build the business that you want to have. So if we're looking at that analogy and we're talking about how we fill our vessel with the rocks, the sands, and the pebbles, well, as a business owner, what's your vessel? Trivia question for you. I'll give you one guess. What's your vessel?
What is my vessel?
What's your jar?
I think it's time, hours in the day, number of it's like my unit is time. Yeah.
Your calendar is your jar, right?
Yeah.
And we as leaders, we as workers, we as entrepreneurs, we have a limited amount of time. Even if I'm working 70-hour weeks, there's still a whole bunch of hours that I'm not working. And I better make sure that I'm spending the right time on the right things, right?
Yep.
So what I always like to teach my leadership teams after we finish setting rocks and we figure out what's going to do, my biggest piece of advice I can give them is once we're done, you're going to take your clarity break, because all great leaders do. And you're going to sit and you're going to marinate over what your rocks are. And you're going to say, okay, in 90 days, these are the 3 to 7 end results that need to come up. Well, what do I need to do to accomplish this? Rock 1. Well, I have to hit this step by this day, and I'm going to start to create my milestones, right? And those will be the process that I use to achieve my rock and get it done. And I'm going to create my milestones. And then the next thing I'm going to do is think about very strategically, how much time do I need to invest? What meetings do I need to have? What activities do I need to do to make sure that that milestone gets hit? And once you have all of that together, and spend an hour, 2 hours really, because this is your most important task of the quarter, fill them into your calendar. Your calendar is your glass. Literally before your quarter even starts, have a plan for what days and what times you're working on each one of your rocks. Now you're going to have to get really good at saying no to some things and not being always on for some people. And that takes a little while. But if you can get really good at that and master that and realize my 1 hour every Monday for the quarter to work on rock 1, and every Thursday and Friday I'm working on rock 2 from 9 to 12. And the guy that I'm working on rock 3 with, he's only in on Wednesdays in person. So I need to meet with him every Wednesday. And you literally block off this time, plan every single rock activity into your calendar before the quarter even starts. And now all the fire drills and the emergencies and the client calls and the networking dinners and the sales opportunities and all these other things that you have to do, whether you should be doing them or not, but you have to do them, whether it be a distraction or picking up the slack for somebody else, they fill in around those cracks. Fill those in around those cracks. At 4 o'clock, I'm working on my rock today. I could take your call at 3, or I could take your call tomorrow.
Right.
It's hard.
And the accountability piece of that, man, it's so hard. Because as you know, we get back into the weeds, we get back into the do, and it's easy to say, you know what, that 4 o'clock, I'll just push it till next week. I'm not going to do it. You keep doing that. You keep doing that. I find myself saying, if I'm in the meeting with you, you're going to do it, because I'm going to call you and heckle you if you don't show up to the meeting or you push me for something else. But I do find that helping that visionary stay accountable to the fact that we blocked off the time to do the rock work, hold it, keep the time. Don't blow me off.
Yeah. I had a specific client that actually was struggling. They're struggling with rock completion for a couple quarters in a row. They weren't getting rocks done. And we realized it was a time management issue. And I taught them my concept of the managing the time. It's up to them to ultimately implement it and take advantage of those suggestions. But their integrator, shout out to Gabby from Stone Lane, she did a great job.
There you go.
She made a suggestion that when we take our rocks from this point forward, our rocks are off track day 1. And that in order for your rock to be on track, you have to earn it. Most companies, most people, the EOS way is your rock is on track until it's off track. It's on track until that event happens that throws you off. They have a reverse concept of no, earn it. Earn your on track. Show the leadership team you have a plan. Make sure that everybody knows what their roles are in getting those things done. And then after a week or 2 into the quarter, then your rock is on track. And now you have a plan. And those rocks will stay on track. And thankfully, I would say that their rock completion percentage has gone up dramatically since implementing that. So
that's so fantastic.
Another little nugget that I encourage people to try.
Look on the screen. I'm taking it. I'm taking all these that I just set and I'm changing them all to off track.
That's it, baby.
Because that's a fantastic point of just, I didn't even think about that. You're right. And I was going to jump in on that. We just started or just finished a quarterly with that client. And for me, the 2 weeks after the quarterly are the hardest weeks to just get focused because we did all this work. We had this great moment. We ranked it. We did all the stuff. And then it's like, now I got to go do it. Mm-hmm. What do we do? So I immediately, the L10 following the quarterly, all the rocks are up, issues are clean, long-term issues. So it takes me 2 full weeks with every client to post session to get rock smart. And but now we're 2 weeks in, right? And I end up having to work one-on-one with a lot of the clients to get the rock smart, but I've started to build this template to really help make sure that we're getting us to where we need to be. But after that, then we're like on week 3, things start hitting and we start getting our milestones set in. We start making sure they're tangible. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to make a rock smart in the way that we mutually can agree what success and done looks like. Because it's like there's always something that you could say, well, it's 95% done. And I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to know, let's write it where we know it's done.
A line that I'm going to credit Svi for this because I'm fairly certain I heard it from him. There's no such thing as 95% done. There's no such thing as half pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not.
Pregnant.
It's either done or it's all the time. Done.
Yep. And you've got to be really intentional about framing it that way because I find myself wanting to say it's done. And my current visionary, the one who's actually negotiating the acquisition, pushes me on it. He's like, Matt, that's not done. And I'm like, I love it. Everyone needs that mutual feedback and accountability to understand, what done looks like. So one thing I want to ask you something. So, and when you filled out the information about the podcast, and I don't know if you remember this, I'm going to test you. In your mind, what's the number one hardest thing about managing people? I know your response, by the way, and if you give me a different response, I'm going to give you the one back that you gave me because it's incredible. The number one hardest thing about managing people.
You have to care about your people. Is that what I said?
It's in that there. The vein you said was people think they're being nice by not addressing issues directly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's so big.
My affinity for reading. We talked about my affinity for reading, and maybe one of the highlights of my last 2.5 years since I've been an implementer is at the 2024 EOS conference, where the keynote speaker is the author of my favorite book, Radical Candor, Kim Scott. And I'm a big time fanboy of Kim Scott. I've been talking about this book since it came out. I want to say it came out in like 2018, 2019, maybe even a little earlier, but it's just the Bible for me because I've always struggled. I've always been very, very direct by nature. And what I learned through reading through that book is how to dial up the care and making sure that people know that you're caring about them when you're being as direct. So it totally clicked with me because I could have been the obnoxious aggressor.
Of course.
And there's many times in my life where I've been manipulatively insincere or ruinously empathetic. Like those are things that everybody struggles with at a time, but it created this perfect context for like, what's the right way to communicate with people? And if you care about them, you really should be able to address them directly. So I ended up like stalking her a little bit after the keynote. Had a little like moment talking to her. Yeah, and I was talking to her off to the side. There was a bunch of other people, and I like didn't care. Like I was talking to her.
Yeah.
And then we had to walk from the venue. But then we walked from the venue to like the night party at the gas lamp district. And
San Diego.
She's like, why don't you just walk with me? And we literally took like a 15-minute walk. Me, Kim Scott, and like her daughter and her daughter's friend were like following us. And I just got to pick her brain, and it was awesome. It was so cool.
That's so fantastic. So that's one of, that's one of her, I have read the book, Adam, but it's been forever. Is that one of her famous kind of points, is that point that people think they're being nice by not being direct?
Yeah.
Or people think they are being nice. Yeah.
The example they give in the book is if somebody's fly's open, right? If you care about a person, right, and you want to address them directly, you'll tap them on the shoulder and you'll whisper in their XYZ so that they could turn into the corner and not embarrass themselves and zip up, right? That's perfect. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. If you're obnoxiously aggressive, if you don't care about them, but you're going to address them directly, you're yelling out across the room so that everybody knows that their fly's open. Oh, your fly's open. You're making fun. You're making them feel like a jerk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then there's what I think most people would do in this situation is most people see the person with their fly open and they think to themselves, it's going to be so embarrassing for him if I tell him. So let me just like keep it to myself because I don't want him to like be self-conscious.
Right.
Well,
right. Instead, we let him walk around with his fly open.
Right. And then the worst part is sometimes the people will say, well, I don't want him to know like I was looking at his crotch. Right. Like that's where I didn't say it, not because I don't want him to feel uncomfortable, because I don't want to feel uncomfortable. And that's where that manipulative insincerity comes in. And I have a boss. I've had a lot of bosses named Richie over the course of my life. So Richie at Blue Switch, he always said he prided himself on, I'm the guy who will tell you that you have something stuck in your teeth. And I just think back to that and I'm like, yeah, that's who I've become. Like, and in the most, and everybody appreciates it.
But for the right reason. For the right reason, because you want to help someone. You want to save them from some point of embarrassment.
You have no idea how many times I come home from like a restaurant and I've got crap in my teeth and nobody said anything to me.
You're like, all I wanted was for you to save me from the embarrassment. All right, I'm going to wind us down by asking you a few questions that you got to answer in not rapid succession, but you can give us one sentence around the question.
Let's do it.
We already covered sports. I know it's the Yankees. Favorite book. And if we just talked about it. So it's probably what we just talked about. All right, fine. Favorite band, music.
Evolved with time.
Yes.
These days, I'm going to say Goose right now. I'm like really into Goose. I've always been a jam band guy. Like Dave Matthews was my thing for a bit.
I'm on and I'm coming back from home. I love Goose.
That song is ridiculous also, by the way. Like, yeah, so I saw them in concert for the first time this summer. I've been listening to them for a while. They're like really at the top of their games right now. So I'm just super into Goose. But I have like a history with the Allman Brothers, with the Dave Matthews Band. I love Led Zeppelin. The Beastie Boys have been an important part of my upbringing. My kids love the Beastie Boys. And there's a very famous act right now. They intersect between Jewish music and like techno dancing, and it's a band called Zusha. And it happens to be that one of my cousins is in the band, and they're huge, they're massive. So I really, really enjoy them too. So I listen to a lot of different things. I have to show you this
because I was just texting with my buddy. I'm gonna try to find it. Hold on. This was Mountjoy and Goose in Wisconsin, and I was like, that would have been a show. I love Goose.
Like my favorite concert recently is usually drives what I listen to the most. Like I've been just listening to a ton of Goose since June. I love it. But like 2 summers ago, I went to an amazing, like slightly stupid reggae concert in Stick Figure.
Yes.
And I was listening to like reggae
I love Stick Figure
for like a year. My wife, before I met her, was a huge Fish fan. We do like Fish. We're not like at every concert like some of my friends are, but we try to go once a year. And my wife also is a huge fan of the band Sublime. And that's been an important part of our marriage. I love Sublime too. And we know the words to every single song. And like, that's like our joint favorite together.
I don't practice Santeria. I know them all too. Okay. Last question. I'm gonna let you go. Adam walks into a bar. What's the kind of beer that he orders? What's the first beer? Just immediately.
If you had asked me that question again, because this is how we grow and we become bigger, more evolved people. If you had asked me this question 6 months ago, I would say I want an IPA. Whatever foggy, cloudy IPA you've got, that's what I want to drink. But what I started to realize is, first off, they're very, very filling, and I'm trying to keep my weight down. Secondly, when you're traveling and you're at a baseball game or you're in an airport, I've become a little bit stuck up with the types of IPAs that I was drinking.
Sure.
You can't really get something that like equals, and like the basic IPAs that they have at your airport bar, it doesn't cut it for me. So I recently, about 6 months ago, decided that I'm going to start drinking Pilsners, because anywhere you can go, you can get an ice cold Stella. And that's usually the way I start my night with the beer side, right? I'll usually have a shot before that, but beer, I work my way up to IPAs, but I've learned to really, really appreciate like a nice crisp Pilsner a lot over the days. And
that's so good. Cold mug, borderline freezing. There's nothing better than a Pilsner. I am a Pilsner lager guy, but
there's a brewery a few blocks away from my house that opened about 3 years ago. And I've become very, very good friends with the owner because I spend a lot of time there, maybe too much time there. I don't have beer in my house anymore because I just drive to the brewery and grab a beer there. And they make the best Pilsner. It's so good. And that's really what turned me on. So shout out to Manny and Somerset Brewery. And we did a really cool project together this summer. I'm involved with an organization called HESC, Hebrew Academy for Special Children, and they run a camp, summer camp, sleepaway camp program for kids with special needs where in a way it's amazing for these kids to have that opportunity, but it's also really amazing for their parents to have 2 months off where these kids are taken care of and have the time of their lives. It's a tremendous organization. They do tremendous good. I have a very good friend who's, his son goes there and it means the world to them. And this summer, every summer, my friend does an event, some type of alcohol tasting, men's night out type of thing. So we did tequila a couple of years ago. We did bourbon last year, which is my second love. And this year was beer tasting. And I was able to convince Manny, who's my good friend, we did a special batch of Pilsner and we canned them up. It was called Pils for a Purpose. And we did a limited edition run just for that night. We got like 12 cases out of a keg or something like that. And it was just such a cool thing to be a part of. I was involved in the brewing process, involved in the canning process. It was just a cool thing to be a part of. And it supported a great cause. It was a hugely successful night. And when you go into the brewery now, he's got labels from all the beers he's ever made. And Pils for Purpose is up there too. So that's cool.
What a cool story. I need to meet this guy. I might have to have a few pints at his place. Somerset Brewing? Is that right?
Come visit Somerset Brewing in West Hempstead, New York. They're about to open a massive expansion in about 2 months, 3 months.
That's fantastic. Well, Adam, I'm going to close this down by expressing my gratitude and growth for coming for spending this time with you. I have to tell you, I've done this a few times, and this is probably top 5 for me in terms of just having good conversation with somebody who's full of experience and full of life and humility, and just gratitude. So thank you very much for your time with me, and I appreciate you joining us today on the Scalability Code.
Thank you for listening to the Scalability Code. If you made it this far, please follow the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get out of the show together. We'll see you next time on the Scalability Code.